Aren't any questions?
Well, is there?
I'll move to support. Also.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So Bonnie will be working again as Assistant Secretary in support of capturing minutes and collaborating with Melissa as we continue to build up documentation associated with our conversation. So appreciate that. You should have all gotten a copy of the agenda. Again, try to provide a framework for us to discuss what we have on that for this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and kick that off with a quick overview, and then there'll be some back and forth since Melissa's been very actively involved in this as well. So in any case, I'll be walking through number 2. There is a reflection of number 1, which is pre-work. You should have received that as attachments or links to look through. So hopefully you had a chance to at least scan that, so you have a little bit of a sense of what's in store. Then under number 2, which talks about first steps, I'm going to go through that. And that's really the kickoff of some level of digging right into the information, some of which, or maybe most of which, people have seen prior, since obviously this study committee was launched on the heels of a fair amount of previous conversations with the township and otherwise. I'll go through that. We'll have assignments, so we're looking for volunteers and people to participate. So we'll cover that. And then there'll be more of an open forum under number 3. So there's no intent or belief that what we're covering under number 2, titled First Steps, Comparison of State, County, and Township Regulations, is going to be all inclusive of what we need to do. But I do believe it's a really great first step. But I'm obviously interested in hearing from others, sharing of things else what else they think we should consider. So we'll cover that in number 3. And then we'll have some general housekeeping, which includes going through the schedule. So that's the agenda this evening. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump right into number 2, titled Comparison State, County, and Township. So I want to cover the overall concept first, and then we'll get into some particulars. I know, Melissa, there had been a list that was put together. You and I had taken a quick look at earlier today. Do you have that available to post on the?
I can right now screen share it so we can look at it if we want. I can also post it on, like the hard thing about the township clerks, they just told me today they're not full time. So sometimes posting it on the webpage won't be immediate or even the next day possibly because of their inavailability to always do it right away for us, which I understand they are not full-time staff. So
right.
Unfortunately, emails are the best way to get the information. Do you want me to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you put it up on screen? And again, there was a previous sharing of the matrix, which will be something we'll cover in a little more detail. Melissa's going to walk through that. But yeah, if you go ahead and post, if you do screen share.
Yeah, he needs to open me up. So let's see. Okay, there we go. I got it. Okay. All right. Just give me a minute to open up to find it.
There's something good there.
All right, here we go. All right. So this is about what you guys got. Can you guys see it?
No, it went behind that.
Not yet.
No? Shoot. Okay. Sorry. I've done this before and it worked out well, and now it's not working right.
Melissa, I see it.
It's coming up fine on mine.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So you guys see it now. So you guys see like the Excel document?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I don't, but
No,
I have it
No,
printed
either.
still.
Sorry.
No,
Just desktop files.
Really? Okay. Oh
It's
gosh.
so weird.
I'm seeing a folder, Melissa.
Lots
Yeah.
of files.
Okay, let's try it again. Sorry.
Great.
See if that will open up.
Hit share screen once you open it up already.
You are sharing screen.
There we
Okay.
go.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Yay. All right. Okay. So it's exciting to get these wins on me. So, okay. So what I tried to do was make 4 main columns. The Gunnison is our sistering township. So that's most likely what we're going to be, looking at, for how a township does their own zoning. Obviously, we have, in column C, the St. Louis County ordinance that we've been following. E would be many Minnesota state statutes, and G was for any other, because like the DNR has some good information in it. And then as you go across, there's gravel pit standards we're looking at, permit and interim uses for gravel pits, reclamation and density, financial assurance, conditional use standards, the ruling bodies, and zoning descriptions, and maps. So those are the main things we're trying to cross-reference when we're doing this, just to really make sure we're doing our due diligence, looking at things. So Greg, now that I have it up, do you want to talk a little more about it?
Yeah, and can you pull up that that list I had of kind of the steps that I envision we're going to go through? The one that we covered later this afternoon.
I don't have that down. Do you mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have it ready. It's not.
Okay.
I'd have to have it as a document, not on an email.
Okay, well, let me go ahead then. I'll verbalize for the group here what I see as the process. And it's a little bit of expansion of what was in the meeting minutes. So I'll go through that. As Melissa said, the source documents reflected here, she's done some cross-referencing. The intent is to assign each one of these sections to a lead individual that will own that. There may very well, and there probably should be people that have a strong interest that want to participate with whoever owns that section. And right now there are 8 sections. There's a recognition that there may be additional information we come about, or people want to share source information that would blend in. But as a starting point, this seems to be pretty tangible stuff. And the Gießen ordinance, as I reviewed it, well put together, concentrates the information in the category under borrow pits, whereas St. Louis County is somewhat scattered. But again, there's been some work done here to help point people in the right direction. But the intent is to come out of this discussion with an owner for each of these 8 areas, and then give them the opportunity between now and next week to actually put forth the specifics that my belief is we should then review or have them present. So I'll walk through the steps that I view, and this I'm going to verbalize. Apologize, it's not available in writing. It just didn't get put together till after we posted the agenda. So the first step, and I'll read this, is compare the source information as reflected on the logical sections grouping and extraction use matrix to identify differences. And this basically refers to the item B and C on the application that we all filled out. And again, the matrix is reflected there for your view. The second step is to highlight the differences that are believed to reflect a lack of sufficient regulations to protect the interests of the town and its residents. This directly relates back to item A of the study. So it's taking the comparison and looking at the differences that relate to what we've been asked to do, and that is to identify if there is, and if there is, what is the insufficient regulations, again, to protect the interests of the town and its residents. Third step, as I view it, is to tie in any other source information as identified, verified for appropriateness, and assigned back to the study committee members. This is somewhat what we'll head into with number 3 on the agenda. Again, I assume there'll be other information and perspectives people want to share, and we want to blend that in as and where appropriate, so we can look at other sources that might provide us further assistance in making this comparison. Number 4 is to share, review, and discuss these items. Again, with ownership, this will help us to divide the work. People can line up in areas that they might be a little bit more passionate or knowledgeable, and doing so, result in a better end product. And then bringing that back, share with the opportunity for us to discuss all these areas in whatever level of depth necessary to cover that material and get our input or thoughts. Then if we think about the end game, so there's a little bit of time that would take for this all to come together, but the end game then, number 5, is assemble the resulting information and associated recommendations into a draft report. Circulate that draft report for the study committee review, and concurrence, or at least collective awareness and knowledge of. And that obviously leads to the last, at least at the six-step process, and that is to publish a report with recommendation to Township Board. And I put on or before February 4th, which correlates to the last date that we currently reflect as a schedule. And of course, this refers to item D in the last paragraph in the study application for this group, and that is to obviously take the results and share with the board. So multi-step process, and that gives you a little bit of sense of how I think we could carry this out and dig into the details. So that's just kind of an overview. We'll get that out with the minutes so people can understand that. Or if there's input or questions, obviously cover those. So looking at the matrix, which is on the screen right now, again, it isn't likely foreign to most if you've been viewing or looking through some of this material. As was shared the prior call, the level of detail or specifics tend to increase as you go from state to county to township, because that's the nature of how these are put together. And I think as people dig into these areas, they're going to find that to be pretty much the case. There are more particulars, for instance, in the Gunnison ordinance than there is in the St. Louis County ordinance. So our job is to understand those differences as a comparison, not the only comparison, but probably our initial comparison, and then understand which ones of those are what I call material, relating back to being sufficient or insufficient regulations to protect the interests of the township and its residents. So that's a quick verbal overview of the intent and a bit about the process. So I guess I'd like to open up to the team here on whether there's sufficient awareness of what we're looking to accomplish, or whether people have questions they'd like to ask about the process, so we could get that understood as best possible here before
Hi,
we go
this
further.
is Dan. Can I ask something? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, Dan, go
Can you
ahead.
hear me? Okay. Anyways, I'm looking at this and you want to do a comparison with Gunnison. Okay, Friedenberg Township gave the zoning back to the county a few years back. We had zoning before. Can we also bring up our own zoning ordinances that we had in the first place for gravel pits and put that in the comparison also? We had zoning already here. Most of the people that live in this township realize the old zonings. We should be able to bring up our own zoning because it was ours in the first place and look at it also.
Yeah, Dan, this is Greg. I saw an email you sent through. I think it's a great suggestion. Has that information been identified so that we can have Melissa add that with the link?
I actually asked the clerks in a formal email, I think it was today, right after, whenever you send emails, Dan, I try to get to the clerks asking for that. So I did ask them for that information. I haven't heard back yet, but I did ask for that at least. That's all I can do with that.
Okay, if you can't get it, I'll go through Frank Shrine. I must have 4 big filing cabinets full of stuff. I just can't find the regulations that we used to have on gravel pits. There used to be a little book that Friedenberg zoning put out, and all the residents got it. It's like a little pamphlet, and it showed all of the regulations for zoning that we had, including gravel pits in it. It was a small book. I think it was about 68 pages, maybe 70 pages, kind of like what Gannison's is. And we had one. So I'd like to see that again, and I'd like to do some comparisons from where we were when we turned the stuff back to the county in the first place, and also reference that with what Gunnison has done to improve theirs since that time also, because pits were about the same as Friedenberg's back in the day because Ganeson used to come over here and do our road work. They used to rent, and we rented them. They came over here with their grader and graded our roads. My grandfather, John Maknikowski, ran the grader for many years here. And then, later on, Lakehead got bigger and they took over our grading. But prior to this, our road work here was done by Ganeson. So what I'd like to do is see what our zoning was and what Ganeson's was, and also what it is now, and see what we can do to improve our zoning in a comparative figure. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
So I get, a good suggestion there, Dan. I guess what's critical is get the source information. So with Melissa already asking, hopefully that's discoverable on the part of our township clerks. And then in essence, that would add another column, likely, or it could be under other, but I think if it's extensive as you're making out, it probably has a very parallel structure to it. So good, we can add that in, and it gives us one more source, or those that take responsibility for these sections, gives them one more source to draw from. And it'll probably be interesting reading to boot. So guess we'll look to hear from Melissa how quickly the township clerks get back to her. I think the issue, Dan, if you get it, then we have to go through a scanning process and have it posted, and it probably won't be as easy to review, but if it comes down to that, I guess we can reach back out to you.
I will also clarify with the Excel document that we have in front of us. A lot of the documents have a parentheses and a number behind them. That number correlates to that Word document with all the listing and the hyperlinks to it. So trying to make it as easy to find the documents as possible. So if anyone wonders where those numbers came from, that's what it's from. I hope that makes sense to you all. Just for me, it made the most sense. So.
may I ask one more
Right.
question, please?
Debbie, what's your question?
My question is, are we going to look at the Friedenberg Comprehensive Plan at all in relation to this?
Yeah, if you
It's
actually.
actually under number 8.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't,
It was
I
newly
didn't see
added.
that.
Mhm.
Okay, yep, okay, perfect, that was it.
But just as Dan has shared another source that I think we would find valuable, and as you're asking Deb about another category, we may come to find over the next week or two that there's another category, another source. It could, if it's a minor source or specific to a particular segment, we'd add it under other to capture it. Or again, if it's another category, we could just add it as a 9th or 10th. My view is we have the lion's share of the core information here. That's not to say there's not other critically valuable information we'll come across, but this gives us, I think, a good jump start. I want to make sure that any other questions are brought up because I think it's important that we talk a little bit or make sure we have people that are willing to take this on. So any clarification or questions on this still?
Yes, I'd like to also ask another thing. Gravel pits in Friedenberg Township, there were 2 that came into court. There should be court records somewhere. One was Dale Nelson in Friedenberg Township. The other was Older Construction in Friedenberg Township, Lee Older Senior. There was a pit closure behind the Minuet because of well damage. And Dale Nelson had started a pit, I guess where our sliding area is. And, it was shut down because it was right out in public view. So can we find those court documents and see how our ordinances were applied back then also?
Dan, I do actually have a pending request from the county for all those. So I'm just waiting to hear back from those because those are, as you say, like the county said there's 12, there have been 12 cups in our township. And so it would, as you say, it's valuable to get that information to see how the county handled those processes. So I am waiting for those documents. And then once we get those, then we can move forward with putting that out there for everyone to see. But I don't know about the court stuff. I've never heard about that yet. But I have asked just for the documents between the county and the township and the companies, so then we can get a clearer view of how the county has been taking care of our township for the last 30 years since they took over zoning.
And let's do this, Dan. Again, it sounds like, information that'd be good to review. Kind of envisioning bringing it up under 3. I don't want to be overly structured, but I do want to make sure we complete the discussions around the matrix, the concept, and the assignments. So let's just, Melissa already made mention
Okay,
of that. That could be ours.
right, Greg, understandable, but regulatory bodies are already in place. The state of Minnesota has regulations, the county has regulations, and now the township wants to make regulations, okay? The county has to abide by state regulations and be at or more strict. The township ordinance, if we create one, has to be at or as strict, okay?
Yes.
We're really only here to do a study as to whether the ERDC was really necessary. Also, the just all the rhetoric that has went around this road project of the Fish Lake Road project. The county worked on that road all the way to the Pioneer Road and stopped because they ran out of money. Now they've got some money and they're going to start again. Okay. Trucks on the road. Okay. If you're going to truck 20 miles away, that's a lot more fuel, a lot more diesel smoke, a lot more problems for more people farther away. It's best to have this pit centrally located in the area of the job site. The job is going to be going on. There's going to be Euclids going down the road, just like it was on Levake Road. Can you understand the size and the complexity of this road construction project? And did anyone from the township actually go and talk to the county engineer and find out how they were going to do this before all of this started?
Yeah, let's do this, Dan. I think, there needs to be and there's value in an open dialogue about the broad conversation to make sure that there's some sharing and awareness amongst all of us. I know you have some rather detailed background, historical and otherwise. Let's hold that thought just a minute. Again, I want to close.
Dan, this is Clay Sitch. Okay.
Right.
We're talking about gravel pits in our township. We're not talking about building roads. And that's what we're talking about now. If you want to build roads, that's a totally different subject. And if they have to they're going to have to haul asphalt from some distance. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen with roads. And they managed to get the other road done. They managed to get the other portion of the road completed without this pit, which has been actually told to us that this is so precious because it's all about sand for mound systems.
Okay, Clay, I have looked over a lot of paperwork and I've went all the way from the federal government all the way down
Thank you.
to present. What I am saying is Lakehead's pits are the way they are because of township usage. They have worked for the township for 50 years. Some of this material that has come out of these pits, most of it, all of the township material. Okay, so what responsibility does the township have to Lakehead? Okay,
what responsibility does the town have to the residents? So this is what we're studying now. So we need to get away from roads and we have to see.
Lakehead is also a resident.
Hey, Dan.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
And I am too.
Dan, I understand what you're saying. I really do. But our job right now is to not go back in history of what happened with Lakehead and how the township hired Lakehead, and where our gravel will come from for our roads. Our job is singly to verify the standards that are written out in our statutes and in governing documents, and to compare them to see why and if we should use like make an ordinance for ourselves to protect our future better. The past really, there is some value to the past, but as for how the township treated Lakehead, or they had agreements or whatever, this is not the topic. But I think you have some valuable points. I really do. But our town, we can't spend too much time on that because it's not the topic of this meeting. So.
Dan, I've asked a couple of times, politely to just wait until we wrap up the matrix discussion. And again, I think an open forum is valuable, because otherwise we'll see very little sharing and collaboration or enlightenment. So I'm not trying to shut you down completely, but I do want to finish the conversation on the item that's on the agenda. So just hang with me for a minute. So just to close out, again, I'm not hearing any additional questions or, questions as to how this is intended to be looked into as laid out. And let's talk about some volunteers, because as Melissa and I have gone through and she's reflected on this matrix, there's right now 8 sections. They're not perfectly cut, but they're pretty common information, standards, permitting, reclamation. There's a financial component that's a little bit unique, conditional use, ruling body, zoning, and then comprehensive plans. It's kind of a bonus since that's outside of the ordinance by and large. Looking for volunteers. We got the Zoom meeting a little tricky to see and to hands raised and what have you, but we had a minimum need 1 owner in each category, and that's the first round of input I'd like to get, or feedback. So it's kind of a bidding process of sorts, but is there someone that wants to volunteer to take on gravel pit standards?
Say that one more time, please.
Yeah, Clay.
The reclamation or the density? Yeah, gravel pit reclamation and density, gravel pit reclamation and density. Which one are you talking about? The gravel pit standards on the first one?
I'm going, yeah, if you look at Melissa's posted screen, I'm going top down on the left column. We have 8 different segments of subject matter.
There's 1
through 8. They are driven off of largely the Gnesen ordinance, because it's rather well put together in a concise fashion. But as Melissa has done, there is comparable information, and the job at hand is to review these different column sources within a single segment, 1 through 8, and come back to this group having identified the differences. And as I mentioned, things that are significant enough that they fit in the category that we would associate with concerns over the need for or lack thereof of additional regulations. So I am looking for a specific individual to take on the first item, gravel pit standards, just as I am looking for a specific individual to take on the rest of those. So at a minimum, we need 8 people to volunteer.
Greg? Mark
Yes. Hey, Mark.
Not to complicate matters, but I need to ask the question, because in item 3,
Sure.
in item 3, you talk about other considerations for investigation and comparison. If we add 1 or 2 more items in that category, are you okay waiting until we get there to solicit participants? Or I don't know, if we add 1 or 2 more items, whether or not all the people can be committed to the first 8. I guess I'm waiting to see if there's going to be some other items added that I might consider.
Okay, good.
Wait till we go.
Fair question, Mark. Fair question, Mark. So what I've heard from the group this evening is we have one more source document, which is effectively a column that will be added, and we do need to get our hands on that source document. That's, as Dan Severso mentioned, is the prior ordinance within Friedenberg. I think it's a great idea. We will have one more column, but we do need to get access to that information. I know it's repetitive, but Melissa said she's asked for that. Dan's volunteered to find it, hard copy, but again, that creates a little bit of a challenge with scanning and otherwise.
Yeah,
So
but-
this matrix will expand by one more column from what we've gathered this evening.
But I'm not talking about this matrix. I'm talking about outside this matrix if we have another area or 2 of investigation.
Sure,
So that's what I
Yeah.
wanted. So, okay.
sure. Okay, Mark.
Okay.
Well, we've got a timetable that we're trying to fit this all in. I think we've covered enough. I think we know we're putting together a report, which is going to be destined for the township board. I don't know how many additional areas, again, referencing number 3 on the agenda, that we're going to find that we need to investigate or bring into as a source for comparison. If they're identified up front and they're validated as being applicable to one or more of these segments, then sooner is better. But I know there's been a lot of thought and effort put into this overall undertaking. I'm actually not expecting a significant amount of additional information to become made available. If it is, that's great. But I don't think we have time to waste, so to speak. I think we need to dig in. And so, if people want to put off a week to wait for more information to surface, probably no harm in that. But then the assignments go out, and then it's back on those that take that responsibility to run this to ground and to create information around their segments. So it's unknown at this point, Mark, if we're going to come across more information that relates and is of value or not. That's an unknown.
Well, it isn't. I mean, I have one, so I'll wait until number 3 then to provide my input.
Okay.
Another
Okay.
consideration.
All right. Okay, cool. Again, I'm not hearing a lot of people verbally raise their hand. We do need 8 people to look after these. Are there people, I guess you don't have to go in numerical sequence. Are there people that want to speak
Patty's
up that have
waving
a
her
strong
hand.
interest?
Patty's waving her hand. You got to unmute yourself,
Oh.
Patty.
I don't know how my little,
Hold on. Hold on.
can't get the whole,
Patty, on your screen, there should be a little
Yeah?
unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Well, okay. I was just gonna say, I'll take number 1. I'll volunteer to take the first one, the travel pit standards.
Thank you, Patty.
Lynn and I'll take number 3.
Thank you, Dan and Lynn.
we will.
Greg, I'll take number 5, conditional uses and standards.
Thanks, Chris.
Barb and Jeff Montes will take number 4.
Thank
Deb
you.
will take number 8. Deb Roach?
Thank you, Deb. We have a few left.
Melissa, can you shrink that screen down? I keep trying to move it myself here. so I can
Okay,
see the whole thing.
sorry.
I thought maybe you shied the screen, so we had to play. a
Oh,
little-
sorry.
move that.
Had I known what this would have looked like, I would have done it a little differently, but I wasn't realizing what this would be like, so.
We can't read number 7
Okay,
and number
so-
8 now.
So 7 zoning description and maps. 8 was already taken, I think, right?
Yeah.
So what are we looking
Correct.
at? So what's left, I guess?
But I,
2,
6 and
and
7.
then this was sent out as a link too, or attached for a link, but
zoning descriptions and.
two permits and interim use of gravel pits is number 2. It's open. 6 is open. It's ruling bodies, and 7 is open. It's zoning description and map.
That'd be fun.
I'll take number 2, Greg. Bruce Anderson. Permits and interim use.
Thank you, Bruce and Bonnie.
And I'd still, okay, never mind.
That leaves 2 open areas: ruling bodies and zoning description and maps.
6 and 7.
Geez, the map sounds fun. Come on now. Sounds funner than what we picked.
I'll take 7.
Who's that speaking?
Jason Campbell.
Thank you. So we have 1 left: ruling bodies.
Planning officers.
Do you have anybody left?
Right. How many people are here? No.
Can we start over so I can pick quicker?
I
We'll
also
put you
would like,
first up for it.
since I'm taking these minutes, could everybody please tell me what number they're taking? So I can write you down, so I can hold you accountable.
I can go through that, Bonnie.
Bonnie, do you want me to read them off?
Please.
So number 1 was Patty.
Okay.
Number 2 was you guys, Bruce. Number 3 was Dan. I'm saving. Number 4 was Barb and Jeff. Number 5 was Chris. 6 is open.
Bonnie, I'll take number 6.
Who's that? Who's that?
Is that Mike?
Yes, it is.
Number 7 was Jason Campbell. Number 8 was Deb Roach.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Melissa, can you throw them on this spreadsheet?
I will add that. I will edit that later.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody. So the last item under this section is reflecting the how we're going to drive the pace of getting this information compared and then shared. So, I'm gonna kind of break rank and jump to the schedule just for a minute. Next Monday, the 14th, we are not planning to have a meeting. Variety of reasons, but one is it would give a reasonable amount of time for those that took these action items to actually pull together information and target us to start reviewing that on the 17th. And then thereafter, as long as it takes to get through it, it's a pretty easy read. So even though people have taken responsibility, which I again appreciate, many of us are probably going to look through all the material or have looked through the material. But it's important that the differences are captured so that we have that input to the future report generation. So again, we're not looking to get it next Monday, but by the 17th, we are looking to have ideally everybody, because it's just great to try to drive the pace of having a chance to review them on the 17th and then 8th that spills over on the 21st. That would allow us to close out that portion, which I think is the lion's share of the review, aside from additional information that we bring up as talked about under number 3. So no meeting next Monday. As you complete your effort, if you pass that along to myself and Melissa, that'll let us know who's kind of at a point of being put on an agenda. Quite frankly, if we don't have anybody that's completed by next week, then we're going to have just more dialogue, and I'd rather keep at least a good part of the conversation we have focused on the concrete steps we need to get to an actual report and a recommendation. So that's kind of the intent there. Anything else on this subject before we move on to the next?
Yeah, on this, each of us are going to go out and find information and pull it together on these subjects. But that does not limit each of us to look at each one of these subjects independently.
Right. Yeah, Dan. Like I mentioned, I think there's a good portion of us that are going to either have or will read all the information. It's not that. I mean, there's a lot of information, but it's not completely exhaustive. But it was important, and you might want to drop that screen share, Melissa, just so we can get people's visual. What's important, if you find an alternate source that's in your segment, you have to make sure that information is referenceable and made available back to Melissa. She can record it because we need to know the source of the reference. And if you find something in another category, you can choose to share that. But again, we want it to be pertinent to the comparison. The end game is a comparison that points out the differences that then we will determine whether they are reflective of things that we believe indicate that there's insufficient regulations as the county stands, and therefore the more detailed regulations generally found within the township ordinances would be important for us to basically, create for ourselves. So that's kind of the intent.
Melissa, Melissa, may I have the, would you send me what you just had on the screen?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
I think that was in the course information, but yeah, you absolutely want to make sure you have a copy there, Bonnie. Okay, so people have their segments called out. Great. The information is largely there. If you find something else, again, you need to make the source known back to Melissa so we can add under other. We will look to start reviewing this, and each lead would present. There's questions about how you're formatting it. Quite frankly, my belief is take an approach that you think illustrates the differences well, and we can draw from those examples to potentially map all of them to that format for the report to the extent that that's going to be part of it. So an opportunity for a little creativity there, and then we could probably take a best of breed to use as our ultimate format. Okay. We've had a lot of people kind of anxious, I guess, to talk about other stuff. Go ahead and open it up here. Mark or Dan or others. But my only caveat is that it's kind of got interjected by others here as well. We didn't sign up to take on all aspects of what's related to this subject within the township. We're trying to put forth a recommendation based on a comparative, as they've asked us, of state statutes, other ordinances, and the like. So while there might be things that people want to share, and I don't want to curtail that, we aren't trying to grow the scope of our effort. There are others, whether it be township supervisors or what have you, but I am trying to help us stay focused so we can generate a report, as we were asked to do, in time for the township supervisors to take that into account in addition to other information they either have or will have. So with that said, I'll open it up. If there's any additional sharing or considerations, if you want to interject, I guess I'll open the floor.
Unless Dan wants to be in, I'll share.
No, you can start.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Lynn, I hope you don't mind. I kind of piggybacked onto a subject that you brought up in the first meeting. Perfect. And also that you sent an email out following that first meeting. I didn't see any responses, and I didn't see that it was added as a consideration in the agenda. it's an important aspect of this overall potential project and the direction that we're headed. And for those of you, that's the second reason why I'm commenting is that I wanted to add for discussion the subject because it is important and it is part of potentially the decision making that could occur as part of the package, and it's the financials. And Lynn had talked about the importance of the financials and the impact on the budget and the costs associated with whichever path that we take, both initially and long term. And so I sent an email out so that, consistent with what we talked about, getting information out to people in advance so that they could consider and review or think about the potential of this area is something that we could provide as part of the report, information on. And again, you're talking about source information and comparisons. The same thing can occur on the financials as it relates to options of taking on an ordinance or not taking on an ordinance. And there's plenty of statistics that are available through DAT, the Duluth Area Association of Townships and other townships. And I know there's been references made to Gneeson and other things. I think there's an interest by some of us to include that as part of the report. And so I guess I wanted to bring that up for discussion. Certainly I am willing, and I think potentially there might be some other people who are willing to pull that together in a timely fashion as well. It wouldn't be that difficult. The information is available, and I think it's well worth consideration or well worth making available as part of the package.
Mark?
Yes.
So that kind of was under item 4 in the Excel document, financial assurance. Friedenberg Township, actually, if you look at item 21 on the Word document, hyperlinks, it's Minnesota statute 298.75, aggregate material removal production tax. Friedenberg actually can take production tax. So we have an availability, and Clay actually can talk more about it. But that's actually going to be a huge source of income for the township if we want. And so that's, again, something to look at. I'm not saying we're doing that, but that is out there in part of the documents.
I wasn't aware. I didn't, when it said financial assurance, I wasn't sure exactly what that, was.
We're throwing this together. We're doing our best. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That financial assurance, I'm butting in, that financial assurance number 4 is different than where I think Mark and I are thinking. We're looking at.
I think
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lynn. No, I think you're right, Lynn. You folks both had shared emails, which kind of gives us a heads up on kind of what you're thinking. I would put it under that category if we had to find a home for it, not knowing more detail what you're looking for. The thing is that again, I'm pretty adamant we focus on scope control. If there's information that relates to this, I would say, and then Mark or Lynn, maybe you want to go out and get it and present it so we have a better sense of what you're talking about. But as I've read and reread the study, it talks about regulation, statutes, and rules. I think what you're referring to is, are you talking about to the cost effectiveness of or financial burden the township takes on? Is that kind of where you're coming from? That
Yes.
there's costs associated with managing this process?
Yeah, that's part of the package.
Yeah.
Just so you're, for full disclosure, after I followed up with my email and with Lynn, I had discussions with the 3 supervisors who are not on this committee, and they specifically said that this is an extremely important component of what they want to see as part of their consideration.
Yeah.
Jim said specifically the top 2 areas related to financial liability and a couple of other areas. He had 3 areas. So I know that that they are very supportive of having this information made available to them.
Mhm.
And so I'm willing to take that on and work with Lynn or whomever if that's acceptable to the committee.
Right.
Well, I think generically the enlightenment of the committee of related information is of value as long as we don't get distracted. I would be interested in hearing if you want to come back at the next meeting, or we try to put on the agenda, maybe an overview of what you have in mind or what data you've been able to come across. But again, you know, I'm pretty adamant about taking seriously what they wrote on our application that we signed up for. I mean, I don't want to be critical, but if 3 township supervisors said, yeah, we really also like to know about this and this and this, I mean, that would have been good to have up front.
Well, this was,
but
I'm just going to interject with this whole report that we filled out. This wasn't filled out by our township. This was filled out by a lawyer. The guys read it at the board meeting. They crossed some things off, changed a few things, and that was it. They really didn't have time to study what this thing said, because it had to go out so fast. You know what I'm saying?
Well, again, I want to be, I think we benefit by being enlightened in, I'll call it peripheral issues. And if there's information, as Mark saying that he'd like to pull together to share so that we could view that or have an opportunity to review the same source documents, I'm game for that, Mark. I'm not opposed to it. How we fit it into our report, you know, not everything needs to be done through this matrix. We may find other information that we blend in. So if you want to take the first cut at bringing either the source or the summary of the source information for our benefit of reviewing, then I support that.
Okay. And again, you know, this wasn't something that was on my agenda originally until, you know, as I looked at, again, you're looking at a matrix. I believe in a little bit of fluidity, and I also believe in being realistic and factors that come into play that are actually significant that will be considered, should be considered. You know, that, you know, there aren't going to be too many other things that I think that will come into play. So I'm willing to spend a little time in that area, and I think that there may be 1 or 2 others that might be, you know, that are more versed and have pursued this. So I'm good. I'm not going to take up a lot of time in working with this away from the committee and what you believe is the core source of information. So maybe we can just leave it at that, and we'll see what we can do to put some info together to share. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm being enlightened.
Okay.
Mark,
thank you.
Mark, just Jeff, that's on it. That's number 4. If we could maybe share that information, maybe you and I can have a conversation about this, and just as I do this other part of it that's on the matrix, and just to have an insight of where you're coming from on that too.
I'll make a note to connect up with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. No, I'm intrigued as well. Look forward to having you share both the source information and maybe your summary view then, Mark. And maybe we'll try to tag that at the next meeting, depending on how much this other work's done, but great.
Can I interject anything?
Sure, Dan, what do you have on your mind?
Okay, I'm looking at the county land use, and I'm looking at the ARDC community vision for town of Friedenberg. County land use maps and the ARD maps are different. So do we have a actual
is there any good map
zoning map of Friedenberg Township as a vision? And do we also have a map of it as county?
Those maps suck.
I guess, you know, they do a little color, what's lakeshore, what's not, what's watershed, the hydrology of it, all of those things. I had a study done here for biosolids. Biosolids, when they put them on the ground, they can't go into the watershed. So everything here outlined for biosolids is out of the watershed. I'd like to see the watershed of all of Friedenberg Township. I would like to see And also, I'd like to see the one that the county has designed for us, and I'd like to see the one that's in the community vision in color, better, more like what the county has blueprinted versus this black and white copy that I got of the ARDC.
Well, that's because I print it in black and white, hon.
Right.
Well, that's Jason that's working on the maps. The zoning
Okay.
map.
I know, but I
Your
still
map
would
guy.
like to see,
Map
I
guy.
still would like to see what people have planned for us ahead of time that we all should know about. Maybe,
Well, yeah.
a copy of the
We're gonna learn.
vision and the land use should go out to every resident of Friedenberg so that they all know what's going on here.
I think we are creating the vision.
I understand that, but you could send out paper and everybody would see it on paper. Nobody likes to go on the internet. Nobody wants to go and do all these things. Now, not everybody is computer savvy in this township. In fact, we're probably the only ones. So anyways, the rest of the township should be more informed than what they are.
We can't be sending out paper to everyone in the township. It's too expensive. They're gonna have to go off the internet or know somebody that has a computer and that can do that. I just printed off one piece of information. The county zoning ordinance, it was 126 pages long.
Oh, God.
I just printed that off. The Gunnison Township one is 77 pages long.
I probably went
Right,
through.
we've went through about $180 worth
Yeah.
of print cartridges.
And
so
we
far.
can't do that for everyone in the township. So if they're interested, they're gonna need to do that on their own.
Right.
I do have a suggestion, which I've been thinking is, we hired ARDC, and Justin kind of compiled some maps together. But I mean, I would like to request the township to ask Justin to actually make a good map. Compile it together, make it good. I mean, they should have that, like, not equipment, but like the computer program stuff there.
Great.
But I mean, I think that'd be a great use of Justin's time. We're paying him very good, as we've all talked about, and haven't really seen a lot of results that are just solid and helpful towards this what we're doing. And that would actually be something very helpful. So that's my one thought. My second thought is, as we've had issues before with our Friedenberg comprehensive plan, the secretaries have told us it was never approved by the county. So all that work, I think it was Ed Pratt was saying, all that work they spent to do it, and then the county said, oh no, we're not going to approve it. Our committee has, or Greg, because you're the chair, would have access to our township lawyer. And I think it would be pertinent to ask our township lawyer if we can ask the town board if the Friedenberg comprehensive plan can get approved by the county, if our lawyer can help do that. Because what a waste of, like Ed said, what a waste of time for that committee who did that. And I don't think it was right of the county not to approve it, or at least to give us better findings of how we can get it approved. So now we have a very good lawyer. That township lawyer seems amazing. And I think that's important that we do that. So.
Melissa, I had taken on that area. That's one of my, that is the area that I volunteered to do. And that was my question in reading through that. Is there anybody that's on this call right now that knows why the county did not approve our comprehensive plan? Is somebody on here right now? Ed, you were part of that committee?
I was part of the committee, and I've also been in close contact with, in fact, I just spoke with both of the director of the St. Louis County Planning and Zoning, Matt Johnson, and the manager. I cannot pronounce her last name correctly, but it's Jenny Bourbonnais. Both of them are really great people to talk to and stuff, and were very helpful. I don't know, is this a good time? I've got a part that I would like to add on as but I'd like to respond to your question.
I think it's important for all of us to understand this.
Okay. What happened is St. Louis County has got a generic form that they sat there and said, you've got to realize that there's 27 cities, 72 townships, and 75 unorganized townships within the county. And they had a a total mismatch. Everybody that would participate was putting in their own, plan before, and they said it was unmanageable with that number, trying to keep going with it. So they came up with a single plan that is, one size fits all, possibly, if you look at it that way. But it's not that they didn't accept ours or anything like that. They want and encourage townships to keep theirs. And on top of it, and which kind of goes into where I'm going, with the county part of it, is they are willing to work with the township to work on the overlay, which is what I believe everybody is concerned about, how you do whatever you do with inside the township. They have already done that with one of the other townships who, requested it. And I'm getting more information about how do you do that? How do you approach it? What can you do? What can't you do with this concept of working with the overlay, which I believe would really address the issues that we're having. So it's not that they didn't accept it or anything like that, or that they say it has no value. They would, gladly work with us on this concept of an overlay. And I just like to bring up, like I said, there's 72 townships that, are organized. And of those townships, there's only 4 that have their own zoning. And there are 0 townships that have the joint or shared zoning, where the township takes over one. So we're definitely looking at trying to do something that has not been done before. I would like to say that Kenosha, which just gave up their zoning for basically the same reason that we're looking at it, of taking it, was the zoning cost them $5,000 a year to do, and they were presently at $20,000 in lawsuits, and they just couldn't keep that up. But the county people that came to their open meeting on that subject brought up something that I would like to look forward or look into more. And again, I kind of asked Greg, how do I handle an additional type subject or a way of doing something? And Solway and Kenosha have a land use committee that every cup and variance that comes into the county goes to that committee. The committee makes a recommendation to the board, the township board. The board passes a resolution, however they want to do it, and sends it back to the county. And the county, and like I said, I'm trying to get information that would be more helpful to the rest of this group as to, okay, does the county just sit there and forget it? Or does the county actually take it into better consideration? And according to Matt, they have right now, to his mind, with these counties that are already doing this, or excuse me, townships that are already doing this, they have not gone against the township on any of them. So again, I don't have all the information. I am trying to get that information, but that is a process that I would like our committee to be able to also take a look at, as maybe we haven't looked into all the possibilities that are available to us with the county, i.e. using our, forming a committee, a land use committee to work with them, or working with them on the overlay, which may correct some of the issues that we're having currently in the township.
Hey, Ed.
Ed, this is Clay Sitch, and I had a similar conversation with Matt Johnson about almost 2 months ago, with no real nothing really happened. And we have been trying to work with the county on this particular matter. And that's why we're here. And I have talked to Solway, and they don't do any of their own zoning. Only they mostly do is collect money for their depletion tax or whatever you want to call it. They have 7 major gravel pits or gravel operations or borrow pits in their township. So I mean, but you know,
But I just want to say, Clay,
comparing us to Solway, excuse me, I did not interrupt you. Comparing us to Solway or some of the others, I'm sure that we're quite different, and I don't think that maybe they looked at us like we're Solway, because our circumstances are quite different than Solway. Our population is different, our waters are different, everything's different here. So doing this one central government thing doesn't work for every township.
Let me interject a comment. Yeah, thanks, Clay, and thanks, Ed. We got to be pragmatic. We're 20 minutes to the top of the hour. You know, my view is, again, coming back to we have a certain scope and an end game. We've talked about that. We probably will continue to talk about it. I am receptive to source material that people can bring forth. So, Ed, if there is documentation about some agreed upon process so that we're at least familiar with it, the team is on a broad basis, you know, bring it forward, just as Mark mentioned, he's going to bring forward some information from a financial perspective. But the comparison effort to put forth suggestions or recommendations is going to have to be pretty objective. You know, ultimately, conversations or such are not going to be sufficient. I believe we need to have referenceable, comparative specifics that relate to differences. And the difference, again, going back to what was asked of us, is there sufficient regulations to protect the interests of the town and its residents concerning extractive use? So we are going to get down to, you know, the concept of regulations, statutes, rules. They need to be referenceable. They need to be objective, not subjective. But again, if you find information that enlightens us about an agreement so that we're not ignorant of how somebody else has tried to maybe solve it, what they perceive to be a similar situation, then we're all better by knowing what that is.
Excuse me, this is Deb. Can I interject one thing to Ed? Ed, are you listening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do have that email that you sent to the township in regards to the Kenosha. I had it printed it off and I've got it in front of me here. In it, on page 3, it was stated here, when asked about enforcement philosophy, and this is to Mary Anderson from St. Louis County. When asked about enforcement philosophy, the county says they agree with the township philosophy. The first step is trying to get violators to see the light rather than feel the heat. They agree that most people want to do the right thing and they'll have a high compliance rate. The enforcement procedure depends on the urgency and severity of the violations, but typically it's as follows. Now, this is what St. Louis County says that they're going to do. The first one of the planners send the violator a letter and a permit application if need be. If necessary, that's followed up with another letter, typically sent by Mary, outlining the deadline for the compliance. They do have the authority to double the permit fee if necessary, but they're willing to work with the person if they can't afford it. And they set a reasonable deadline for payment. After 3 letters, the compliance order is filed against the property. The last resort is then turning the issue over to the county attorney office and begin court proceedings. So that's what the county told Kenosha Township that they would do. And maybe seeing you're talking to them so much, ask them if they actually have done that ever.
I will do that.
I also want to piggyback on what you said, Ed, about like them filing a resolution, like the township then, you know, taking the comprehensive plan and filing the resolution. Our township did file a resolution twice to deny that cup, the newest cup. And Commissioner Nelson made it clear he didn't care what our comprehensive plan said or what we wanted in our township. And he pushed that cup to be approved. So I think what they're saying in theory is good, but the problem is when it came down to it, Commissioner Nelson made it clear that it didn't matter that the township denied it. on grounds of the comprehensive plan that we made. They actually cited it. And so that's where I would kind of have a problem with. I know, Matt Johnson, in theory, that sounds great. But when it comes down to the facts, they didn't follow through with our township. And our township board referenced the comprehensive plan when they denied the resolution objecting the cup. So
I don't believe that, well, I'm not sure, but my understanding is there was no resolution because there was a split inside our township as to how it should be done.
So if we don't have like an all or nothing win in a resolution, then it doesn't count?
What you're going to, well, I'm researching information. I think it would be, I don't want to guess or put words in the county's mouth. I'm not saying I am for the county or anything else. All I'm saying is that what we're trying to do here has not been done before. And if there's a way to do something without going into litigation, I would love to try and do that, because we have got past practices in this township where we lose and it costs the township a lot of money. So Kenosha said, and if you read the whole thing from Kenosha on from their open minutes or open meeting on it, they had extremely good luck with zoning except for 5% of it. And that 5% was on gravel pits. And all that happened is they went to court. And like I said, they had over $20,000 in lawsuits, and they just finally said our township cannot afford that. So I guess I'm responding to Mark's concept and piggybacking onto it.
Yeah.
I think the financial side of it is very important.
Can I respond to all of you on this? Because I have some information on that.
This committee was set up to deliver a report. If that isn't what people are interested in doing, then this committee maybe isn't for them. We don't have enough time to explore every single avenue. And also, Mr. Pretz, you don't know what all has gone on with these cups and with the county. You haven't attended the county meetings and done all of the correspondence. We've done our homework, we've done our research, and the committee is being set up, and we have been asked to do a task. That is the task that we need to do.
All I'm trying to say is please don't close your mind and sit there and say, we've already decided we're going to look at the Geneson and we're going to just sit there and basically plagiarize theirs and move forward. I would just like to sit there and say, there are other options and possibly we can look at them. I will spend the time to look at them. And if it makes no sense, the committee can sit there and say, we've looked at that option. It is not viable in our opinion.
Right. So let's do that. Let's do this. And again, I appreciate Bonnie's comments as well. Again, within the study, it says that we should look at other towns, other ordinances and the like. If you can bring forth where they have published guidelines that they apply, so we're enlightened to that. I think that should be shared for background. If it's pertinent, we'll try to fit in what they've done. I'll look to fit in what they've done that looks to be of value as it relates to, again, the structure of this assessment. It's another source, but we need to have the source information. Appreciate the conversations you're having, but it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be referenceable in line with what somebody's applying, and that there may be that information out there, or maybe something very lightly papered. I don't know until I see it myself. But it is another example potentially. So we'll look to see what else you find on that front. We're down to the home stretch. I did hear.
And
Dan.
I have the floor. I asked a couple of times.
Dan.
Okay.
What's next?
St. Louis County Board voted 8-0 in favor of this cup. Okay, if you're gonna change anything about this cup, you're gonna have to go to the other county commissioners or someone and have them change their vote on another thing after the township gets an ordinance or not. Right now, in the county, they have said 8-0 in favor.
That was the planning.
Okay.
Dan, I'm gonna interject. Yeah, but that's not pertinent to what the task at hand.
Gave proper public notice. They had a hearing and they had another hearing. They changed a few things on the plan to satisfy, hopefully satisfy some of you. And then they voted it 8-0. Okay,
but Dan, hold on a minute, Bonnie.
Complete.
Dan,
the gravel pit is going in.
Dan, let me speak up for a second here. Clay, just hold on a second, Clay. We're backsliding, or at least the information most recently shared relates to a specific cup and a specific situation. This effort, as defined by the application for this group, does not talk about an address or a specific cup. It doesn't talk about one that's in play or future. This is about a comparison of information that will result in a report that highlights what is likely be additional details around ordinances by townships that are more rigorous than the county. It's not about a specific cup. It's not about a specific site. I don't want us to get caught up or sidetracked by that. I am trying to drive referenceable documents for comparison purposes that we can highlight and hopefully illuminate or make known to the township board as they requested through report. And I'll go back to it again. It's basically about whether there are sufficient protection for the interests of the town and its residents concerning extractive use. It's not about 6464 or others.
I understand that. I'm just saying, if this gathering of us is going to be because you don't want that pit there, I'm sorry, that pit is going to be there. They need the material for the road and they're going to use it. If you stop the freeway, basically, like they did in Duluth, if you stop that pit, then you stop the Fish Lake Road. Okay? That's
again, Dan, we're not concerned
about talking about roads. Stop.
Greg, I have a quick one. Melissa, you had mentioned about wanting a map. And so I'm not sure what type of a map. ARDC might just end up going to what typically people go to, the county or city. The city and county have the capability to do whatever overlay for minimal cost. So whoever's going to be pursuing those maps, if they want some assistance, I've worked with the GIS from both entities, and so I can help you. If ARDC can't help you provide what you're looking for, I can assist in getting that accomplished. So feel free, whoever is working on the mapping systems, to give me a call and I'll help you out.
Jason is okay.
Jason Campbell.
Yeah, Jason Campbell. Again, I'm trying to keep us focused on the task at hand. We have a few minutes. Is there anything in between what we're trying to assign here on this call and then come back together to discuss next Thursday that's not clear or people have other input to? Okay, if not, I'm going to do a quick summary. As Mark had mentioned, he is going to pull together some information relative to additional finance perspective to more broadly enlighten us. So I would expect he'd have something to share potentially in advance of a call as well as to explain on a call. Ed did say he believes there's a different model and he's researching whether that's actually documented. And if it is, then we can consider whether that fits into additional consideration as a comparative. So he shared that. And we obviously have the list of assignments for sections 1 through 8, which I appreciate everybody taking. We'll follow up with that list I verbalized, but it sounds like people have a pretty good sense. We'll probably try to touch base with those folks to see who's coming to a point of maturity to share it as early as next Thursday or shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Any final comments that relate to the agenda today? Okay. Hearing not, then I say we conclude the call. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, we will be back online next Thursday. We'll have agenda in advance. And again, for those that took action items, we'll probably check with you to see the level of completion to help to put you, those that are done or thereabouts, give them a slot within the schedule. So appreciate that again. Have a good evening. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Mark, I have a
Thanks,
question
Greg.
for you. Mark, if you need any help with what I was coming out of my brain there when I wrote the first time, just email me.
I'll give you a buzz. We won't keep everybody on here. I'll just give you a
Oh,
call.
for sure. Yep,
All right.
thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. I don't know if you noticed,
you,
I have
Greg.
my holiday spirits over my left shoulder here. I just thought I'd, introduce a little.
Oh, mine true too.
Thanks, Greg, for putting up with
Yeah.
me.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.